Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. So in this video it's all about the railing and the flowers. Now I'm hoping to finish that in this video, and I will probably need to do something, pause it, go away, do that, join the next video to the next video. So I'm thinking that's how I'm going to proceed. Otherwise it will take me probably 3 videos to actually do this piece of embroidery, because I have a feeling it'll be quite labor intensive. I still haven't decided fully on colours, designs and things like that. I know that this particular thread, which is within the tail of Percy, is what I want to use for the rail. So I've definitely got that decision down, and I'm going to lay that down first and then come back and have a think about the actual flower / vine and what I do. I think I sort of got to the point after I finished filming the wing, I kept fiddling around with all the threads, and I sort of felt like I needed to just do one component at a time. It was just too hard to make a decision on the full colour range. Does that make sense? So I thought I'll just start with some stem stitch to get the railing in position. Can you hear Fudge? He's bellowing in the background. So I just want to, let's get this colour down. I think this will set the tone. I want the railing to be there but not be there. Does that make sense? And I want the vine to be there but not be there. So I've got to be very careful what colours, and my palette is beige, so it doesn't leave me a lot of wriggle room. I did in the last video have out quite a dark chocolatey thread, so that's definitely a consideration, but I'm not sure yet. Like I said, I really need the railing done and then approach it with a little bit more information. I guess I was getting ahead of myself. So I just want to stem stitch this into position. Keep my stitches, if I can, the same size, which is never my strong point. Not a lover of stem stitch. I never have. When I was a kid, it was the stitch that really stumped me. It was never quite neat. I seem to be a little better at it now, but still, I just remember my grandmother doing it on doilies, and even Mum, and it was just beautiful. Where mine as a kid was a little bit all over the place. Having said that, I did discover by about grade 8, early high school, that I needed glasses. So I have to wonder if that affected where I was placing my needle. I remember the day it was discovered. I'd always been creeping towards the classroom at the front. Not creeping towards the classroom, the wrong way to say it. Creeping towards the blackboard. But Mum and Dad wouldn't have known that, because they weren't in the classroom and wouldn't have seen me over the years getting closer and closer to the blackboard. And I was a little bit slow at writing things down from the blackboard. You know, you've got to look up, look down, look up. I definitely wasn't the fastest in the room. But I was very good at capturing the image of what I saw on the blackboard, remembering it, and then writing it down. So I was able to take a photograph of it in my mind. So I wasn't terribly slow. But now that I look back on it, I can see how I've developed that skill of, like, I take pictures in my mind. Does that make sense? Even when I'm reading an instruction manual, I very rarely read every little detail of it, but I can skim it, take a picture and build that image in my head. And I have to wonder if that was because my eyesight was probably failing me a little as a kid. And I was just starting to learn to drive. So it wasn't grade 8, it must have been grade 11. I was just getting my learner's license. I'd been driving for years as a kid on the farm. You know, all farm kids learn to drive. It was a old beat up Holden farm car. So I started at a very young age, sitting on mum and dad's lap. I couldn't reach the pedals, but I'd steer. So I certainly had some experience in judging distances when going through farm gates and down through creek crossings and things like that. So as soon as I could reach those pedals, it was on, even if it was sitting on the edge of the seat, hanging on to the steering wheel to keep my foot on the accelerator. I was right in amongst it, as you can imagine. Most farm kids are like that. Excuse me, I need to... Yeah, and then I progressed to driving the tractor. Nothing full on like harvesting or ploughing a paddock, but if there was a scenario where I just had to keep the tractor rolling forward in a straight line while Dad loaded hay or vegetables or something like that onto the wagon, that was my job. I just have to steer it. And when we get to the end of the road, Dad would jump up on the tractor and turn the wheel, because it was pretty heavy. Turn the wheel, get the tractor set back up, and then away I go again. I don't know how I got onto this tangent. But anyway, when I got my learners, I was in the car with Mum and we were travelling back to the farm, and I said to her, oh, there's a black horse on the road. And I started to slow down and she's like, what? And I said, there's a black horse in the middle of the road. And she sort of looked, she goes, no, there's not. And I said, yeah, there is. And I'm slowing right down, and it was 100 kilometres an hour area, and by then I was down to 70 because I could see a black horse in the middle of the road. And anyway, we got closer and closer, and she says, no, it's a black dog on the road in the distance. And I'd slowed right down, so cars and trucks were backing up behind me because I was sure I was coming up to a horse. So what it was is I'm short-sighted, so I can see close up, not so much now as I've got older, but back then, but I couldn't see distance as good as I should. So that black dog, in my blurry vision, I'd increased this little black dog to quite a large black blob. My brain then said, must be a horse. You know, we're talking to a country kid here. So Mum was like, something is wrong here. So within a day or two, I was at the optometrist, and my mum has the same vision. So she probably knew straight away. So I got my eyes tested. Sure enough, I needed glasses. And I remember another thing is when I was swimming, I did a lot of swimming. I did a bit of competition swimming. And when I was in the water with my eyes open, my vision was crystal clear. It was beautiful. Yet when I popped my head out of the water, it wasn't. And every so often that would sort of resonate with me. I'm thinking, oh, look at that. Isn't it beautiful underwater? And water does that with poor vision. It tends to improve it. So, but I didn't twig as a kid, and of course I probably didn't even mention it, that Mum wouldn't have twigged either because I wouldn't have said anything. So anyway, I get back from the optometrist with my new spectacles on my nose, and even all the way home in the car, it was like the lights had been turned on. The leaves were green and glossy, and I was seeing light bouncing. Does that make sense? It's hard to describe. And the biggest thing was I got to the house, and from our farmhouse we could look down towards a creek, and then the colivation, and then it slowly would climb up to the hills at the very back, which also had colivation on it, where Dad had ploughed up the paddocks for different crops. And I could see that colivation so clearly. I could see the furrows in the paddock, in the soil. And I was just standing there on the top step of the farmhouse looking out. Mum was in the kitchen, sort of just to the side of me at the kitchen sink. And I went up to her and I said, everything is just so defined. I said, I can see those gum trees on the back ridge, probably about 4K away. And the other thing I saw was I could see Dad way, way back on those back contours walking. And I'd never seen that, because I used to often wonder, Mum would look out that kitchen window and she said, your father's coming for morning tea, or your father's coming for lunch. You better get the cake out, or you better peel the veggies, or, you know, there was always a task, because she would see him coming miles away, and then we'd know that it was time to set the table, or, you know, finish up what we were doing because it was ready for a meal. I could never see him. But when those glasses went on my nose, I could see Dad all the way on the back contours. It was just, astounding. Anyway, a bit of a side story for you. I don't know how we got onto that. I got no idea how I got onto that. But anyway, so that's my black horse in the middle of the road was a small black dog. Could you imagine what Mum was thinking? Be like, my goodness, this girl is learning to drive on the bitumen, and she's seeing black horses and their little dogs. Yeah, bit of a dead giveaway that I had an issue, hey? So I'm just coming down the side of this railing now. I'm going to end that thread. I don't think I'll change threads for the shading. I think I'll just keep it the one. You sort of, this piece is very busy. I don't want to get too much more busy. I don't know, maybe I just go for it and it'll just, the more you look, the more you see. There's sort of a theory in that as well. I don't even know if I knotted that. That was more of a pulling through of the thread only. Probably will hold, but I just want to make sure I catch that nicely. I like this thread too because it's got a bit of a shimmer to it, so I think it'll look really pretty as the railing, because like I said, I want the railing to be subtle, but the fact that it's got a little shimmer there at least helps it hold its own, I think, in amongst the crazy that's going on in this piece. All right, let's come up this other side, and good old stem stitch. You've got to remember to start a little bit in so that you can stitch back on yourself to create that rolling threaded look. If you've never done stem stitch before, just type it into YouTube, how to, and have a look at some of the techniques out there. There's a few different ways they do them, but they sort of all end up with the same style. It's quite interesting to watch some of the tuition out there on some of these stitches, especially if you haven't done it for a while too. It's a simple stitch, but done correctly is the trick. That's how I got on the glasses. That's right. My stem stitch was pretty ordinary as a kid. And I'd say it's because I couldn't see where that needle had to go. Okay. I might don't want to waste too much time because there's a lot to nut out in this video. just can't stop, I tell you. I've got no self-control when it comes to stitching. I know I should stop and move on to the next bit, but I just want to finish it, you know. I've got this thread on the go. I want to do the little stitches in the actual post itself. Then I feel comfortable I could probably stop the video, finish the rest of the railing, which won't take too long. So I'm just going to cut another thread, let that one, and that stitch there is a bit bodgy. See, I started rushing. With stem stitch, you have to unpick 2 stitches to get it right. You can't just take the last one because it looks crooked. Yep, this should be fine. So what I want to do this time is that little stroke, that little detail. Where's the transfer? See those little strokes there? I want to just do some little long stitches. Well, they're not that long. In there. Just to make that post feel like it's got a round shape to it. It's a bit of shading. So it's just some little stitches in there. Like that. Oh, that one's a bit out. Got to keep that angle right, otherwise you won't convince the eye that it's indeed round if those stitches are a little bit crooked. That's the secret of shading, is keeping your angle right. That's better. I can get a little bit longer with the next stitch. Hello, Casper. Hello, Casper. Casper's come in to say hello. What's the matter, Caspy cat? Trying not to evenly space those little stitches because then it starts to look like, you know, even. You want it to be a little bit odd. There we go. That's good. Have I got enough in there? Does it give us... Yeah, that's fine. That stitch there is a little bit crooked. It's not bad, but Grandma might have spotted that one. All right, knotting this little guy off because I need to jump to a new spot. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to stop the video. I'm going to carry on, finish the railing and the posts and the shading, and then that's done, and then I will come back and we will work on the actual plant that's winding over it. All right guys, see you in the next second. Okay, I'm back. I've finished doing the railing, finished all the satin stitch, some little shading stitches, happy with that. I end up extending this a little bit further. When I finished these two, I looked back and I had finished up here in the air. I thought that looks odd, and then when I looked at the piece again, they do bring the rails right down into the feathers of the tail, so that sort of grounded that railing, if to say the professional word, I guess. Now I'm just looking at this stem. I'm still not convinced I'm making the right decision here, but I'm going to try the darker thread. 2 strands. I was considering 1, but I think it needs a little bit of substance, so I'm going to be brave. Now, what do? Might just do a stem stitch, or do I do a running stitch? Let's do a running stitch first. Running stitch can be a bit segmented. Does that make sense? So sometimes, but being it stick-like, sometimes that stick-like segmented sort of helps create a plant as well. So can you see? Yeah, probably not as good as you could, but let's see how we go. See, when I do running stitch, hello Casper, he's nudging my elbow here. Hello Casper, you do a quick pat of the pussycat. When you do a running stitch like this, you've got an opportunity to join in little branches at the point of each stitch. So it's not a bad little stitch to use. Still not convinced of what flower to do, mind you. Don't usually have too much of a plan, as you would know if you've been watching my channel a while. I tend to nut it out together. I'd really like to iron out this red thread too. It's still in amongst it all. Now I'll go over the railing with this, and then under the railing on the other side. Yeah, I'd like to iron out all of the red. It'll just crisp up the image a little bit for me. And I might do that after I finish this vine. And then I guess I could come back with my friction pen and draw in. See, I've missed that stitch. Both of those stitches are ordinary. I've missed the hole, and I've completely missed the hole there, and I have there as well. Or I've just pulled it too tight, so therefore it looks like it's missed it. Just slow down, Corrine. That's better. Just lay that stitch right into the previous hole. Okay, I'll get to that edge of the rail there where it ducks behind the rail. Don't pull it too tight, Corrine. Making the stem look gappy. Okay, I'm going to stop there with the vine and then bring my needle up on the other side. So it looks like it's woven through. I probably could have couched it down too. I just thought maybe that might be a bit thick. Like I said, I need it to be quite fine to start with because the flowers got to be a little refrained, but all right, I'm running out of thread and I'm not quite at the end, so I'm going to need to re-thread, and I don't want to bore you with that. So I will stop the video, re-thread, and I will iron out the reds from the pen. I've got some under that wing as well that I want to actually get rid of. It'll be the final iron away of all of that. That'll give me a really crisp line of stitching for this vine. So I'll be able to see, you know, exactly where I'm heading with it. Okay, I will pause the video and I will be back. I'm back. I've ironed out the red, and in the process I keep looking at this wing and I feel like I need one more feather. I feel like the wing isn't connecting to the tail of the bird. This gap here is bugging me a little bit. And it's one of those things that once you notice it, you can't stop noticing it. So I think I'm going to try and drop the needle in under there. I'll just bring it up down here. Just feel like there's a bit of a gap there. Oops. I have cut off the tiny amount of ribbon. I'm going to try and slide my needle up into there and get that feather up underneath everything. Yeah, that's better. Yeah, that's it. Just needed that one more feather. It didn't quite look right. Okay, happy with that now. My iron's still got a little bit of heat in it, and I can see, where did I just spot some red? There, so it's so small, but I'll give the piece a really good going over before I put it away forever, because I just want it to, in case I pick it up one day and take it to be framed, I want to know that the red is gone. So I'll probably run the hairdryer over the back of it just to really warm it up and make sure it's all gone. Okay, I still have no idea what I'm doing with these flowers. So the designer has done quite a cluster through here, coming down into here. Am I going to regret having a continual line there where they didn't? I don't know. We'll see. I don't know what to do. I've got too many ideas. Let's have a look at colour. This is going to be too muted. Can we be braver? Should we be picking something a little stronger? Got such a creamy background. One would say you go to the opposite of cream on the colour spectrum and chase some of the darker colours of it, but I don't know. Gosh. You're probably all yelling at the screen, do this, do that. So I could do metallic, but that thread's painful to use. And I think it'd be too much. A variegated thread would be nice. A wool would be too much. Gosh, who would have thought? Maybe I do some little ribbon buds. I don't know. I've never tried ribbon buds. Do I do white? Little white flowers everywhere. Wonder what that would look like. I don't know. Let's give it a go. What do we got to lose? We don't like it and we have to pull it out. I just feel like I need something a little bit glamorous there. I really like that thread, but I don't want it to be boring. I'm wondering if I can do a little petal. Let's do one. See what it looks like. I can't go crazy thick because it'll be too much. I don't know where we're going to go. Let's just do one little bud. See, I think it'll be too big. Just come back a little bit. Let's get it tiny. Don't mind that. Big magnolias. Do I continue with the flower? Who would have thought? I might just do 2 petals. I feel like I want to do that daisy. Just go for it. Let me just do that. Went down into there and we finished the bud off like that. Kept it a bit abstract. I could probably get away with more if I did that. So I'm going to do a stitch across the base of the 2. Now I've pulled it too tight, so I need to loosen off that just a little bit. Okay, happy with that. And I might do another one here, but facing down to the ground. So I'm just laying my ribbon down and stitching back down on itself to give me that rounded shape, but then potentially give it a little point. That's probably a name for it, but I don't know enough about this ribbon embroidery business to... I like how I can pull it quite firm and get a smaller element or petal, flower, or give it quite a bulbous loopy look to be a little bit bigger. So that's going to help as I meander across this piece, getting different I'm really just trying to find out if this is a flower I want to continue with at this stage. And I'm liking it. I'm going to do a bit of a cluster of them here. The designer has done that here, so I think I could really bulk it up a bit. Here I'll do, no, not too big. If I get too big, it'll look odd. I've got to keep it delicate. Yeah, I'm happy with that. I should have looked at the time too and how many little videos. I've done 2 so far, how much time I've used so far. Oh, I forgot the stitch across the base of the two, sort of helping it bud in to a branch. That's good. I might do another set over here. Lay down that. Gosh, I hope you can see what I'm doing. I haven't even looked at the camera. Yeah. So I'm sort of pinning it down by coming back onto itself. So I come up, lay the thread down, or the ribbon down, and then anchor it by going back through the ribbon. So I'm getting these little tufts of white. I was looking at creams and I was like, I kept going back to cream and I'm like, I just can't see the cream because there's a lot happening in the way of tones in the background here. There's all sorts of marks, age spots. There's a bit of a torn bit here. So I might just put one bud. I'm running out of ribbon, so I'm going to do just one little bud by itself, and I can send a little branch out to it just to start softening the cluster of, and then I can get some more and start again. Let's do another little bud out there. Just a little hint of the white. Maybe one more. What the hang? Let's do it. And then I'll end it off because I am really pushing the ribbon to the last itty bitty bit. Okay. I'm liking that. I think this will work. I'm liking the fact that we've got these little white flowers in the background. Let's have a closer look. Yeah, there's a bit of a shadow there this morning. I'm still waiting for the sun to come up. So you can see the little white flowers. Now, what we need to do is get some more stems happening. So I've got some of the brown still, but I'm going to get rid of one of the threads. I want it to become quite fine. And these little, we've got to join the little flower. And then we can also put in a little leaf, which will stay within the chocolate, I think. We can always change it. Let's have a little play. I'm going to keep it as fine as I can. Just working in the one little spot for now. I can always hit repeat and away we go. But I just want to play in the one little area. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I like that. I might come back up here a little bit. Drop in another little leaf. I don't think I'll stitch them in. I'll leave them have that little bit of air in the center. And connect this little guy back to the branch, but I'll come back a little bit so it's not such a direct line to him. And then we'll bring a little lazy daisy stitch off of there, I think. The good thing about foliage is you can pretty much do anything. The only thing you've probably got to be mindful of is let your eye have a rest. You can do little stitches and things, but just give yourself a bit of a break so that you can see the cluster. You can sort of see what you want the person viewing it is to see. Does that make sense? So concentrate in an area, then leave a gap, and then another area, and just sort of build it up from there. So I'm just working back to where this branch peeks over the rail. Just want to get another stitch in there from the original. The good thing about using the brown is I can add and adjust as I like. Still feel like it's going to need something else to make it interesting, and that's the trick to Jennifer's work, is she does multiple layers of embellishing and stitching. But I'm happy with that so far. The white and the chocolate is looking good. It looks like something, but I think it needs just a little depth. I'm just going to have a fiddle with this colour. It's a funny colour. It's grey, but a greeny grey. And I think it might be just the thing I need to bring the two colours together. Now, what am I going to do with it? I could put some stamens in the white flowers. I could do a little bullion stitch. What's happened there? I had 3. We'll go back to 2. Don't think I need 3 anyway. Got a couple options. We could sneak the needle down in between those 2 petals and drop in a pistol stitch with a little knot at the end. I don't mind that. Yeah, I like that. It's just going to soften the flower a little bit. Just put 2 in. I think 3 might look a little bit heavy. So let's go again onto this next bud. I don't know what flower this is. I sort of feel a bit magnolia-ish. It's making the flower bigger but without making it bulky looking. But it's going to need more. But I've got to be very careful I don't get too big. I'm going to come down to this little flower now and do a... Oops, lost my thread. Casper. What's the matter, Casper? Let's do a tiny little stitch in there. Because it's a small little... Oops. It's a small... Hello, Casper. Little flower, that one. I'll be a little bit careful. I'll just do the 1 stitch in there, and I'll do probably 1 stitch here. We're sort of getting away. I've pulled it so tight that the knots disappeared under the embroidery too. See if I can get it back up. That's better. Okay, so that's good. I don't think I can include any of that down there because they're yet to open. They're like literally a tight little bud, where these are starting to open up and show this little hint of colour. I'm probably doing way too much detail here and no one will ever notice it. It doesn't matter. It's fun. Let's end that off. Do I need anything else? Now, that's a definite. That's a definite, and I need chocolate. So those three colours are in. Now, what else do I need? Just feel like I could put in something. Do I put a little cream? I've got this really old, got this really old crochet cotton. Put that in the pile because I can use that. I do like those colours sitting together, the white and then those tones. I wonder if I can, what am I going to do? Do I do a lacy little thing, or do I just do some little French knots? Do we see a French knot? Yes, we do. Oh yeah, that's it. Just some little French knots, like little buds. Oh, yeah, 1, 2, 3 is the wrap. And I could probably even drift away from, do I drift away from the branch like Casper? Or do I do, maybe I do a lazy daisy on where I do a brown little stitch out. I put a lazy daisy on there. Yeah, that's what I'll do. So that's the 4th stitch. Can you see that? I have put 2 little French knots there, and then that little branch that's coming out now has a lazy daisy on it. So through all of this white will be this little fine flush of the cream, and then within the white we'll have 2, 3, we'll have the odd petal in brown, the white petals. I'll just sneak into those gaps a little bit with this little French knot and just build it up. So it'll be quite detailed, but yet fine. Does that make sense? Which is sort of what I wanted. I wanted a lot happening, but it had to be tiny. Otherwise it would appear like it's overpowering the whole piece. I could probably even come up with some more ideas there, but I'm going to leave it at that because I've stopped there because I need to now come back with my chocolate. I'll finish that little thread off. I think I've got my pattern or my combination. Of colours. I like how Jennifer in her book winds together multiple stitches, multiple textures. So I've got the white satin ribbon, the little grey pistol stitch stamens. Then the stem is doing its own thing, and every so often this stem has this little branch that comes out with its own new growth, which is the cream, and then there's little French knots through it as well, just to sort of add that detail. So I've got the antique thread. I've got this guy here, this funny greeny khaki colour, 642. I've got my chocolate. Got to be careful with this chocolate. It could overpower the whole thing. So but I think the white is actually going to be the saviour because it's strong too. So it'll knock back the chocolate, if that makes sense. So there's my colours. Happy with that. I caught that feather. I need to stitch that down at the back there because I caught it and it's loose at the front. So I've got to do a little bit of ribbon maintenance at the back here and make sure that those feathers sit right. So I'll place a few little stitches in there too, just to make sure that that's seated. All right, everyone, I'm going to stop the video. I'm going to go off and play, and when I come back, it will be finished. I will see you all soon. Bye for now. Hello, I'm back, and I have finished my piece. So there's the finished work across the little gable fence. So I ended up bringing in an additional thread, which was another ribbon, a cream that was the same in the feathers, and just doing some tiny little petals just scattered through, just sort of helped create a little bit of depth on the piece. I'll just zoom in so you can have a closer look. See how they're just little touches. They don't really connect to anything. They're just little highlights. Little French knots went in there. Thinned it out as I got towards the end and sort of kept the bulk of it through here. I ended up connecting the rail to the back of Percy. It just didn't quite look right as it just sort of finished. It sort of feels like the whole piece has come together now. So really, really pleased with it. And considering that's where we started, it's, yeah, I think really good. I was noticing too those little V's there. I ended up doing V's anyway. I don't know. I didn't have this piece with me when I stitched his body. It sort of came as it came. And I've done little V's there as well. So I thought that was quite interesting. They must have just stuck in my mind somehow. So there you go. Percy is finished. Let me just come back up so you can get the full view of the boy. Really happy with it. A lot of work, but worth it. And it's so nice to see this old quilt in the background, considering the other side is reds and blues and all sorts of colours, which I thought I'll never use that until I realised that the back was just gorgeous. And to have that tatting in there too, just, I love it. I love it. Okay, I shall file Percy. He may appear another day in another colour wave, who knows? But for now, Percy is done. Thank you for joining me on this series. It's been a real nice change of pace. So I will see you in the next video. Bye for now, guys.